Good morning. Thank you for joining us. My name is Nichol Figueiredo. I am the CEO of Capital Strategic Solutions. And this morning's coffee talk is about spilling the beans on how and why to create successful summer internship programs. I am delighted today because we have a great topic that touches on a lot of us that work in the municipal field where succession planning and things of that nature kind of slipped away from us a little bit, and also getting people civically engaged, especially our younger groups of people. Today, joining me, I am proud to say we have Greg Bunn, who is the Executive Director of Metro Southwest Workforce Board. Megan Burke, the Director of Metro Southwest Workforce Board's Youth Connections Program. Trey Facilio. Trey, did I pronounce that correctly?
Close enough. It's Facillo. That was perfect, though.
Well, I apologize. He is the current Ward 6 City Councilor for the City of Marlborough and a former local government intern. Mark Gibbs is the Director of IT for the City of Marlborough, or Information Technology Services, for those who don't know what IT is. And our own Trish Bernard. Trish is a Senior Project Manager with Capital Strategic Solutions and the former Chief of Staff of the Mayor of Marlborough. And she's created many internship programs for local government. We want to welcome all of our panelists and kind of ask that our audience joins us. Let's make this as interactive as possible. Please use the raise hand function if you'd like to ask a question during the discussion, or you can send us a question through the chat feature. We'll also dedicate a little bit of time at the end of our webinar for Q&A. With that, let's get it started. I'd actually like to start with you, Trey, if you don't mind, and I'd like for you to give us a little bit about your background and how you ended up being a Ward 6 counselor for the City of Marlborough.
Thank you. I appreciate it, Nicole. And thank you, Trish, for the invite. It's glad we're all able to
Sure.
connect. No, it was an interesting journey for sure. I had known Mayor Vigent when I was a young kid growing up in the city. I loved baseball growing up, and I was probably 14 years old, maybe. And our local town baseball team won the championship. And I got the bright idea that I was going to bring a trophy to City Hall to present to the mayor. And so I didn't really know him too well, but we'd won this championship and I wanted to do something for our community. So I showed up to City Hall with the trophy and, it was a very brief conversation, but I remember being so enthralled by the inside of City Hall and how busy it was and just seeing people running around. And it was that small interaction that really said to me, hey, maybe this is something I would want to do for a career. Well, how could I work in this building someday? And so a few years pass, I get into high school and realized that politics was something I really wanted to do. It was something that I wanted to see if there was a career opportunity. So after my freshman year of college, I had reached out to the city and had reached out to the mayor's office about their summer internship program they were running at the time, and got an opportunity to meet with Trish and got an opportunity to meet with Mayor Vigent, and was able to intern with you guys that first summer after college. And I mean, I credit that to really changing my career trajectory, changing my life, honestly. I don't think, if it hadn't been for that internship, I don't think I ever would have run for city council, because it was in that internship that I learned the power of municipal government. I think Tip O'Neill said all politics is local, but what did that really mean? For the first time, I got to see what that meant by working in the mayor's office. So Trish had reached back out about an opportunity in the Community Development Authority, our local housing authority. So I took an internship there, then ended up back in the mayor's office for another stint. And then it was probably that next election cycle that I ran for council. So it was a big full circle moment, but pretty
Yeah,
neat.
you have a lot going on. Didn't you just graduate too?
I did. I wrapped up a couple months ago. So well done.
That's awesome. I want to ask Mark. Mark, you've been very successful in having interns work for the City of Marlborough as well. Can you talk about your experience in recruiting them and the process and what it involves?
Sure. So we've been doing this program for quite some time now, as long as I can remember. We bring in over the summer, we bring in a lot of the interns, and because we do the school and the city, we have a group of the interns that actually handle all the 5,000 Chromebooks and the over think over 1,000 iPads we have in the school and city. They go through each one of them one by one, re-image them, replenish them, remove any stickers and stuff like that that kids like to get on them, and work on how we manage them and put them back out into the schools. So we have to go through them every summer, and it's a huge job, especially with the iPads, because the iPads are a lot of time consuming. With that, we also have a couple of our interns that work with our network administrators here as well. They'll go through all the schools and all the city buildings, and they'll go in and blow out all the network switches. They'll replace network cables and clean things up in the closets, check the batteries, replace batteries in them, so on and so forth. And also we have a group that sits with us with our Microsoft SharePoint environment that we have. So we'll go through the SharePoint environment, checking on permissions, making sure all the rules are correct, making sure all the websites for each department are up to snuff, and so on and so forth. It's been very successful for us. Works out very well.
That's really great. Typically, how does a municipality pay for an internship program? Can anybody add to that, maybe from the panel?
Typically, it's a couple of different sources. I know in the past when I was at Marlboro, we allocated a certain amount of funding, but there's also grants that are available through the state. And I know in the past we had funded consecutively a Board of Health internship or intern for the summer. And I know we received some grant funding in the past at the time from, I think it was the Emergency Management Division. And that helped out with an intern in the fire department. So, and then, certain departments can allocate, like the economic development group, and also the local cable channel. I know they use a lot of interns every year, and they've had success with that, where they've ended up hiring those interns as employees.
Also, we're a partnership with organizations like the Workforce Board under the Youth Connections Division comes into play. We run internship programs year round, and we are allocated a certain amount of youth that we need to place, and we try to figure out in each area how many youth we want to place in the area. So when municipalities come to us and they say, we would like to run an internship program, how many interns can we fund through your office? We have availability to do that as well.
We do have a question from our audience, Meredith Harris from Marlboro. First off, great group here. Her question is, what is the ideal number of interns for a city the size of Marlboro? Marlboro's got a population of approximately 43,000.
I know in the past, we typically would have about 12 to 15 interns. And I know that we always had at least 30 applications, at least 30 that were interested in interning. And that is aside from the students that we would get through Mass Hire, and the Workforce Development Group. So I would say, if you're going to start something, start a little small and then just grow it,
So is there a vetting process for interns? I mean, I know, Mark, you talked about like some of the IT things that interns touch on, and I know that maybe Megan and Greg could touch on this as well, is that, I know when I was in municipal government, we had to kind of really work side by side with our interns and make sure that there were areas in which they were allowed to go into and areas in which they weren't. So I just kind of wanted to get a little background on that.
Sure. So we always give the mayor's office, does the hiring, a list of job descriptions of what we'd like them to do and what they're going to be doing. That way, nobody's alarmed when they come into the department and know that they're going to be, re-imaging Chromebooks, or they're going to be cleaning closets or any of that stuff. I want to make sure that they're aware of what they're going to be doing. We try to make it fun for all the kids as well. It's not a really strict environment, but we do get the job done, and it is successful.
We have an eligibility component to the funding that comes through our office. So we do have a vetting process that the youth apply through our application link. They then are interviewed. We see if they meet the eligibility requirements. Although we do kind of have a no wrong door approach, where if a youth is applying, we really try to make them eligible as much as we can. But we do have some requirements that are put on us. And then once we go through the interview process and we see their interest, then we try to match them with the right placement. We do whatever the partnership is. So if, for the instance, the IT department wants to interview the youth before they're actually placed, they can go about that as well. But the initial vetting process with us is the application process, an interview, eligibility, and then they go into the match portion.
I think that's a great point. I also think it's a great point, Mark, that you said you want to make it fun and interesting as well. I mean, I think I've seen people get interns in roles where they were just filing all day. Nobody wants to file all day. They actually want to get their hands dirty and get in there and do the work. So I think that's a great point as well. The time frame for these types of positions, can you talk through the time frame? Like, when should a community start preparing to recruit interns, fiscal preparation for it? There's a cost associated with it. Can the panel talk to that aspect as well?
I think right now is a great time to start. Get your application out there on the website, and typically the spring is when the youth or the college students start looking at where they're going to apply and what they're going to be doing for the summer. And I think that depending on what your needs are, how many students you want to have and the time frame, you want to be able to start interviewing students in May when they get out of school, the college kids, and have them start, in June, July, August. I mean, we did typically 8 weeks, but usually the students want to take at least a week vacation. So it's right now is the prime time to just start organizing yourself to get the application up there.
So we have another question. Meredith Harris would like to know, what type of support can the Metro Southwest Workforce Board provide to communities or municipalities looking to start up an intern program or anything like that? Thank you.
Great question. So we're the Metro Southwest Workforce Board. We're one of 40. We cover 43 cities and towns. So if you're in one of our catchment areas, you can reach out to us again earlier in the season, because we are always trying to encourage more municipalities to create internship opportunities for students. So we can walk you through the whole process, how to set that up. One of the big things either an employer or a city or town can do is work with us in what's called the work-based learning plan process. So really what that is we do, for the individuals that we place, we do sort of a pre-assessment on where that individual is in terms of their job readiness. And as they're placed at a site and they go through their internship, we reconnect with the host site at the end to see where that individual improved. So we can see sort of pre-placement where that person was, and then the best way I think to connect with us is after that internship is over, is really give us feedback on where that individual improved. So that's hugely helpful for us. The other thing I think people can do is just really view this too as a mentorship opportunity. We've run into situations where people look at these internship opportunities as free labor, and really it's more than that. And now that we're in this post-COVID world, it is, we were chatting about this earlier, a lot of the baby boomers retired, during COVID, and that left a huge gap that we're trying to see to fill now. We're seeing this systemic labor shortage. It was a long-term problem that developed, and it's really going to take a long-term solution. So we're really pivoting, more towards youth career education. So really just reach out to us if you're interested in hosting a site, and then work with us, mentor the individual, and work with us on the work-based learning plan.
That's a really great point about the workforce retiring during the pandemic. We're looking at a lot of communities that are having trouble with succession planning, and this is a great tool for the programs that you offer to give younger generations insight into what happens in their municipal government and getting them civically engaged and really getting them to see behind the scenes that these are interesting, life-impacting positions. I think one of the things that CSS, why we formed and why we are successful is because we always see ourselves as an extension of a community. We always try to give back, being that the majority of us are former municipal workers, and nobody, I'll just put this out there, nobody goes into government work because you're getting a huge paycheck and you're getting like all of these added bonuses. You go into it because you want to make a change, and you want to make a positive change for the communities that you serve. So I think getting, the younger generations really involved and really interested in the impact that they could have, not only just in their community, but in a larger, maybe it's county government, maybe it's state government, maybe it's federal. They'll eventually go into those careers if they have the opportunity to see what they're all about. So hats off to you both, Megan, and to you as well, Greg, and doing that, the recruitment process and getting them in.
Yeah, and one other thing, so getting back to the question, what can the workforce board do, is we can handle a lot of the logistics. The recruitment is a very difficult process. Megan and her team do an amazing job, bringing students on, making sure they're interested in this field, and then we can also subsidize some of the wages too in certain instances, given funding too. So really, those two big things: the logistical support and the potential support of funding the wages.
That's awesome. Is part of your process, do you do an orientation for the interns, giving them kind of a background on how to dress and the hours, and because it's a little different than when you're used and you're working. I think that Mark or maybe Trey could speak to that too, of what you do when you first hire someone on.
I can still remember the first time I came into City Hall. I got a chance to come in a week before the rest of the interns. So when everybody else came in, I felt like I knew the ropes, but in reality, I was still learning like everybody else. And Trish put on a really nice orientation event for us all, in which we had another former intern, Chad Carter, who is now the executive director of the CDA, the Community Development Authority, come in and share his story about how he started as an intern, worked his way up, ended up working for the city, and now, is a director of one of kind of the off branches of city government here. And hearing that story, I thought was really incredible, because I feel like, me and the 25 other interns all realized that this could turn into a career. There's an opportunity to continue working here. Maybe not for, Marlboro, but for any municipality or state government or county government. And that to me was pretty impressive. It was great to understand that there was a community of interns around you as well. We might not all be working in the same departments, but I leaned on my colleagues, and I still do. I have a number of contacts from my time at City Hall, people who worked in the building department or in IT, folks that I still keep in touch with, because we all kind of caught the bug for public service and want to keep doing it. even though we have very different career paths, me and somebody in IT, not very similar in terms of our skills, but we both have this desire to work in the public sector.
Yeah, that's great. I think too that it's important to have a orientation just to get the ball rolling when you have the students selected. You want to be able to let them know, where you're going to report to, who you're reporting to, the dress code, cell phone use, and just the basics. Your hours. Most departments are flexible with the hours, and depending on how many hours the employee or the student is going to work per week, you flex it over 5 days, maybe you flex it over 4 days. So there's a lot of questions that they want answered ahead of time.
I think one of the
yeah.
advantages of working when you partner with organizations like ours is that you also have us in the background doing some of the case management. And we also offer soft skills training throughout the process of the internship. So when the interns run through our office and are placed through the municipality, they have someone on our staff checking in on them every week, just getting their timesheets, asking the questions, doing site visits. So there's an added person to kind of be that person to be having some of those conversations as well.
Yeah, we've streamlined our process in the past couple of years that we do have this initial meeting where we sit down with all the interns. We make sure who needs a laptop, who doesn't need a laptop. We go through the login process as multi-factor authentication that they have to do. A lot of the departments need to get into SharePoint or different areas of their department to do their work. So we do now sit down with all of them, make sure that they all have their logins, how to log in, how to treat the equipment, when to bring the equipment back when they're done, as well as how to log into the different SharePoint sites that they need to get access to. So it's been a big change there, which is good because a lot of times we didn't know who had laptops, when they were bringing them back, but it's now all streamlined. So, and it works good this way. That way, everybody starts off day one running with what they need to do.
There's been a lot of successful internship programs, but I think that I think that's something that this panel could probably speak to is, although we don't want to think that there are pitfalls of having interns, sometimes we could get into sticky situations. Can you talk about how disciplinary issues are handled with interns, or the difference between an intern and a regular staff member, how that's handled? I know that public employees are subject to like the code of ethics and things like that, public records law. And can you just talk through that and how it applies to interns?
Well, I know we had all of the interns had to go through the query process. And as far as ethics go, they weren't given tasks that they would, be able to get themselves in trouble, so to speak. But we did have, we paid attention to who we were putting in the collector's office, where there was money involved. And as far as disciplinary, I don't really recall having to discipline any of the interns. If there really wasn't too many issues other than being on time and maybe cell phone use, but that was given those issues were addressed ahead of time, and I think that helps to be part of that orientation. I don't know, Megan and Greg, you have any?
We've been very fortunate. I don't even think we could count any of the disciplinary problems we've had with our participants on one hand. I think part of it too, going back to the discussion we had about the vetting process. One other thing I want to point out, it's not necessarily disciplinary, but workplace injuries. we're actually fully covered under workman's comp for all the individuals that we place. The board actually acts as the employer of record in those instances. So, so if we had, we had an incident where a student got injured, and that individual was fully covered under workman's comp. So, but we haven't. Luckily, we have not had really any disciplinary issues, and Megan and her team go through this orientation process. There's actually a curriculum called Signal Success that talks about some of those issues, ethics, things like that. And to Tricia's point, we're not putting people in positions where they have to worry about conflict of interest or some of those other things that they may have to deal with in a municipality. But yeah, we try to do everything proactive as we can, and so far we've been very fortunate.
I like to think that we have a strong employee handbook that we make all of our youth sign, and if they're under the age of 18, the parents have to sign as well. And then we match that with an employer handbook. So everyone knows the expectations, and then we have right in there, if there are disciplinary things that are coming up, that we should be contacted, and then we can set up meetings. And again, Tricia's absolutely right. More often than not, it's cell phone usage. It's attendance, it's coming in late. It's all of those things that, we kind of think can happen. Those are the things that we're dealing with. And if it is something bigger, then that's where our team can come in. And I think that's where we shine. Is a lot of times it's more of, we have seen some, mental health crisis that we had to kind of step in and say, okay, is it a time that they need to take a break from their placement? And we help facilitate those conversations. So we're not putting the pressure on someone, a supervisor in the IT department that may not have that background in having those conversations.
Sounds
Yeah, I
like
think
you
it's
do a pretty good
important to
job
set.
between. Oh, sorry, Trish.
Oh, I just wanted to reiterate, if, to have the expectations set ahead of time, really helps mitigate those things.
Yeah, I was going to add to, it sounds like through the vetting process and through the orientation that you do, it sounds like you've managed those expectations pretty well. And a quick question is, do you tend to see like the municipalities or the communities wanting the same interns back throughout the different breaks, like for summer, spring break, fall break, just repeatedly, or do you get a fluctuation?
My experience is they want to see the same kids because they were so successful and they enjoyed working with them, and they brought a lot to the table. So, they don't have to train them. How about you, Mark? Do you bring back a lot of the same students?
So in some cases they come back. I mean, a lot of cases they don't come back, but I mean, there are cases when we've had the same student. I probably say about 15 students have returned. But yeah, some cases they do, some cases they don't. It depends. They're a huge help for us. So, and we do treat them well, and I'm glad that they come back, some of them. But yes, they do.
We try to push back a little bit on the offices where if you have returning youth, that maybe they get a different experience. So they're still within the municipality, but they're seeing different offices, or even within the office, they're getting a different experience. Because it should be an elevated experience each year rather than someone coming back, say, each summer and having the same exact position.
Yeah, I agree. I agree with that, Megan. And I think that Trey, I remember when you had finished with us and you came back the second year. I think that's why we did have you go to the Community Development Authority. And then the third year you came back to the mayor's office.
Yeah, no, I think you're spot on, and it was great to have that variation. Not only working in a different building, yes, still on Main Street, but being a little bit down the road and having to communicate between the two buildings and seeing that city government isn't confined to City Hall, that it operates on every city and street corner of Marlborough. And I thought that was a really great experience. And I will say, being in the mayor's office itself every day is different, as you know, Trish. So we got to experience a whole variety of things. I think that's probably the gem of City Hall is working upstairs, being able to see kind of an overview of how every department is functioning.
Yeah.
Well, I want to thank you all for joining. I want to ask if you all have some any tips or advice or tidbits for someone who may be looking to have an intern. Oh, I do have one more question coming in. How can we help our interns translate their internship into future careers in local government? This might be, I'm looking right at Trey.
Yeah, I mean, I think I was very privileged to have Mayor Vigent and Trish in my corner, who set the expectations early, but showed me what could come of a career in city government. For myself, I think the interconnectedness of everything is what really inspired me. I love the fact that IT and building and the collector's office all had times that they collaborated. I worked with the finance director so regularly, I felt like being upstairs. That sometimes I was scratching my head, said, wow, maybe I should go into municipal finance. This might be something I like to do. And now I'm on the finance committee on the city council. And so I get a taste of that. And so, you know, back to the question of how do you make it a career? I think it kind of comes. You fall in love with it. You when you get exposed to it, it's easy to fall in love with it, I think. And it's about getting more kids exposed to this kind of work. That's really the test.
Yeah, I think exposing students to different aspects. So, like you had said earlier, Nicole, yeah, you're going to have to file, but give them some real life experience as well, and even give them some ownership on a project or two while they're there. I think that helps. And I think, when you're also given the opportunity to help people who come in to City Hall who have no idea where to turn or if they're calling on the phone, I think that resonates with students as well.
I think one thing that needs to happen and desperately in my department is that we have so many interns come through the program that we have started in the last couple of years creating a list of the students and who they are and what they've accomplishments and stuff like that through our department, because I've had several companies call me with asking me about, yeah, I heard this person worked as intern with you. The first couple times they did it, I didn't even remember the person because we have so many that come through here. Now we've got a little list going on of what they've done and their accomplishments and so on and so forth. So
Yeah,
And one other
that's
thing that can
helpful for
be
them.
one other thing that can be helpful too to get interns more interested in municipal government. If you have an opportunity to bring the internship outside of the office to a meeting that you might be involved in, for instance, 495 Partnership right in this region is one of our area's regional economic development organizations, really well run by a great guy, Jason Palich. If there's a lot of different partners there from other cities and towns, advocates, folks who work for local watersheds, elected officials. Those are things that really can give an intern sort of a greater scope of what all takes place and how these moving pieces fit together. So if there's ever an opportunity and time allows for some of that, that's a great way to expose individuals to potentially a great career in municipal government.
I want to say thank you to everyone for joining us and ask if you all have some closing remarks for our audience before we end the coffee talk. And it's been great talking with you all. I know that we all have to get to work soon. But if you would please provide us with some closing remarks, it would be greatly appreciated.
okay,
So anyone?
I guess I can start. I mean, I think this is an amazing program. I don't know where I'd be without it. I mean, we have so much stuff to do over the summer, with all the devices and Chromebooks and new teacher laptops and the different rooms and all the meeting rooms that we have and stuff that really just needs hard maintenance. Really, I think it's a great program, and whoever does this program will be successful at it. So.
I have two main points that I think are really important is one, it's not a one size fits all. We work with several municipalities, and each municipality has different programming. Some are very intensive and we run programs. Others, they actually give us the money to run their program. So it can really be whatever you need it to be, and we can help you shape what works best for your municipality. Our programs are for 14 to 25. That's what's considered a youth these days. So I also think thinking outside the box of what that looks like and what opportunities, we have a tiered approach in our programming. So opening the doors to a 14-year-old has just as much impact as it does to having a 21-year-old, senior in college coming in. And finally, thinking outside the box. I think there are some offices that are so open and willing to have interns come in and help out and think of it as such a positive, like the IT department, which has been such an incredible partner. But there are also other offices we know that are like, no, thank you, we're all set. And so I just think really thinking outside the box and being creative in how you approach people and getting people on board with opening their doors for internships.
Completely agree with everything that's been said, and I'll echo Director Gibbs's point. I'm not sure where I'd be on my end if it wasn't for the internship program. So, I really think for young people out there who are looking for a summer job, going to your local community and seeing what opportunities there are for the summer is so crucial because I'm not saying it's going to end you up in the public sector, but it'll also open doors in the private sector. A municipality functions in a lot of ways like any kind of business. And so there is, a number of departments that you can get an opportunity in. And so I think it's just really critical, no matter what you're looking to study, there's likely an opportunity to do that kind of work at your local city or town.
Yeah, and I'll just finish by tacking on to what Megan said. The other thing too is if you don't have the immediate capacity or bandwidth to run a program and you're interested, you can sort of dip your toes in the water in other ways. So career exploration is a whole spectrum of services. If you're interested in maybe talking to a group of high school students about what it is you do in your occupation or what it's like in the life of your day-to-day, those are things that can help inspire in successive years students who might be a sophomore or a junior by the time they're a senior. It helps because we have more people who are interested in municipal government. We have more people applying for our programs as well. So there's always ways to get involved, even if you're not hosting a fully supported internship program.
And start now. Like I said before, this is a good time of the year to get your application online and figure out what you can fund and how many students you want, what departments are in, have the need, and start small.
I want to thank all of our panelists for joining us for this edition of Coffee Talk at Capital Strategic Solutions. And if you have any questions or things that you think about after the fact, we can certainly send them along through to our panelists as long as they're open to answering them and maybe sharing their contact information with you. But we do thank you for your time. And I just want to say I'm grateful for the information our panelists provided. It actually gave me some insight and some ideas for maybe starting an internship program at CSS. Have a great day.
Thank you.
Thank you.